Welcome to Groom Scroll. Bum bum bum. Like, you know what I mean? There should be like a little intro.
Mm-hmm. That's
Is
going to be it. I'm just going to add some noise to it. This was your pick. And this was our pick, I think. We both have been talking about doing this one for a while.
this movie came out in 1999, starring Drew Barrymore and David Arquette.
Quite a
And
cast.
yeah, Molly Shannon,
John C. Reilly,
John C. Reilly,
Octavia
plays the-
Spencer.
who plays the teacher? I don't even feel like I know his name.
I don't know his name either. In the
Is he
movie,
in
his name
anything
is
else?
Sam.
His name is Sam in the movie. His name is Michael Vartan in real life. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else.
Fucking Gary Marshall's in this.
Who's Gary Marshall?
It's quite Gary Marshall from Laverne and Shirley and Hocus Pocus. He's the devil in Hocus Pocus. He's
I forgot
he's
he was
the,
on
like-
Laverne and Shirley.
Jose.
Oh,
Cracks
God.
me up every time.
Also, the dude from Together is in there.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, Together callback.
I have that in my notes. Is callback to Together. And I forgot about this part. It's based in Chicago, and it's another early journalism. Seems so fun stories, because I was 9 years old when this movie came out, and I probably saw it
Aw.
around that time. So, and I haven't seen it. I've seen like clips, here and there, or just when it's on TV, but I haven't seen it in its entirety probably since I was a teenager, if not even a tween-ager. So some of the stuff in the movie, I was like, oh, that's what that meant. Like, I don't remember. Like, for example, when she's sewing her turtle pillows, or her pillows, and she puts it on her bed like with her other pillows. I remember being a kid and being like, why is that? Why are people laughing at that? Like, that seems cool. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, because it's supposed to be sad that she spends all her time with her turtle knitting and sewing pillows, so things like that. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand that joke.
Yeah, I would have been 13 when this movie came out. So like prime, you're starting to like boys and daydreaming about romance and love and, ingesting super toxic messaging that is filled in this movie. And I said to Carl before we watched this movie last night, it's so close to just being an enjoyable, easy to watch, stupid movie. And then they have this entire plot line about the teacher that just does not really need to be in there. Like, it feels just like so close to just still being an okay movie. And then there's just this big turd in the punch bowl. That is this movie.
I was thinking about it while I was watching it. In my mind, the characters were played by different actors. The lighting was darker. The intonation of the dialogue was different. And the music was not as fun 90s. And if you change all of that, it's a pretty fucked up movie. It really is. Even, I'm sorry to say it, but even Josie Geller is a kind of a selfish person. So
I
feel
like we're creeping on a boy. Okay, we need to go.
Yes.
From the very beginning. Never been kissed.
Because we're assuming that people have watched this movie and we don't know.
Never been kissed. If you haven't seen it, it is about a news editor played by Drew Barrymore, who wants to be a writer and she just needs a chance and she's a big dork and she understands grammar. What a loser. And she has pet turtles because she's just a sad spinster. Like, this is very 90s messaging. And then she randomly gets a writing gig thrown on her lap at work, which is to go back to high school as an undercover agent and find out what these kids are all about. That's her whole assignment. Just what's up with these kids? No specific real assignment. So then it's like the big geek, the girl that was a big geek in high school has a second chance at high school. And the rest of the movie is just her trying to function, pretending to be a teenager and trying to like become popular as this dorky 25-year-old woman. Does that feel like a good synopsis?
That's a great intro synopsis. Yeah, about the grammar police, I just want to say, don't be a grammar police. Shut up. Nobody cares. Language, read the book that we referenced before, Word by Word by Corey Stamper. Language changes with time and society. Just don't be that person. I once wrote, and I know how to spell tomorrow, but I had a brain fart moment and I wrote "see you tomorrow" or something on the board at one of my jobs, and one of the other counselors came in and, like, put a little X and,
Ugh.
like, a little smiley face and everything, and I was like, "What? Don't be that person. Just don't be that person."
I love that you're saying this because I have such a pet peeve about that as a thing. And listen, I'm sure I do it because sometimes there are things that people say that okay, I will say it if you're saying a saying wrong, I will usually be like, "Hey, heads up.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
what that is," or "You don't know what that means," that kind of a thing. Like you're using this thing totally incorrectly as a saying, or you're using the wrong word to describe what you're trying to say. I'll pop in then, right? But I just think there is something, and I'm sure this is because I am dyslexic and grew up in special ed, and it was the 90s and people were brutal about it. So it's just my personal like sensitivity. But I just think it's such a low blow. Even with he who shall not be named, the orange Cheeto in office, when people try to come at him for his grammar, I'm like, that is the least of my fucking
Honestly.
concerns. Least,
Yes.
I don't care he
Yeah.
can't spell or he can't understand grammar.
Or yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand there should be somebody else doing this for him and that he should have a filter and a PR person. I get that argument, but it just is such low hanging fruit. So I'm just glad that you brought that up because it really does.
It does, and it feels also, kinda racist, like,
Mm,
some people English is their second language. They literally are doing their best when they're trying to communicate. Also, I think it irks my Girk so much because the teacher was such a fucking grammar police,
mm.
and I just remember him making fun of people on TV, in real life, all the time about if they got something wrong or whatever.
Um,
Okay, so that was a great introduction. She gets the story. She goes to her brother for help, who's played by David Arquette. In the movie, his name is Rob. And Rob reminds her of what a loser she was in high school and how everyone made fun of her. Josie's feeling like no, Josie is Drew Barrymore's character, the main character. She's feeling like no one's believing in her. And then she gets this makeover and is feeling ready to go.
Comes back with the worst makeup in the world. That
It
first
looks like
episode,
she's frozen death.
she looks like she has the flu. And I had to explain to Carl that that was a trend at the time, though.
It
Like
was.
icy, whitish,
Yeah,
metallic makeup was the thing. And he was like, she looks like she's going to throw up. But I was like, that was the
that
look.
was the
But
thing.
she did
I
look
think it's
terrible.
coming back. So some of the other actors in the movie, David Arquette, he was 28 at the time of filming. He's playing a 23-year-old, so he's 2 years younger than his sister, than Josie in the movie. We also meet some of the high school kids. Some of them are actually teenagers. Jessica
Mm,
Alba's in this movie. She was 18 at the time. And Lily Sobieski, remember her? I loved
yeah.
she was around in the late 90s, early aughts. She was 16
Yeah.
at the time of the filming. And then like James Franco's in it, he was 21. Yeah, and it's very like so many other 90s and 80s movies, it's very there's the cool kids and then there's
Mhm.
the dorks and the losers and the nerds and you can't be both smart and pretty and you have to there's a lot of jokes about like body image and eating disorders kind of thing. Like she compares
Yeah.
herself to a skeleton and says that she has to only eat water or something until prom. She meets Sam. He introduces himself as Sam
The
in the
teacher.
classroom, the teacher. She meets
Because
him
he
for
makes it, but he makes it very like, my name's Sam, but the school
yeah.
has a thing about me letting you call me by my first name. So it's like the very first interaction
Yes.
is him trying to be more personable with the students than all of the other teachers. And
Yes,
also, did you
exactly.
notice that his last name is Coolston? And the
Yeah.
only other teacher you see is Mrs. Nuts, like cool and not cool. I was like, oh my God. So stupid.
Oh my god. Wow.
Cracks me up. But yes, he like introduces himself by his first name and then like almost immediately is like telling stories about his youth and like playing hacky sack with a hockey stick. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh,
Mhm.
this guy's so cool and he's just freestyling. And, you know, I think as you and I talk about a lot in the podcast, like it's not problematic to share certain aspects of your life with your students. But this
Mhm.
character is just like off the get, making eyes at her, standing too close, blurring lines. Like it is so like immediate that he is
Yeah.
kind of not being chill.
She sits down to in the movie, her name's Aldis, Lily Sobieski's character. I think I'm saying her last name right. And she's like, "Here, we'll share our book together." And so then I wonder, I think Josie has to either read from the book or, like, comment on something, but she talks about her take on whatever Shakespeare they're reading. Sam, the teacher, is all, like, googly eyes, and he asks her, "Are you sure you're 17?" And I was thinking about it, because so Lily Sobieski's character, Aldis, she's also clearly smart and
Mhm.
into Shakespeare, and she kind of smiles at Josie when Josie uses, like, big word or something like that, like, she's like, "Oh, yeah, this girl's smart." So, I just think it's that undertone, that's that messaging of, yeah, Lily Sobieski, Aldis, like, she's also smart, but she's not hot, she's a nerd, and so here
Mhm.
comes this blonde, cute, quirky Josie, and she's also smart, and that's who the teacher is gonna be paying it that's who's gonna catch the teacher's eye. Yeah, I thought that was kind
Yeah, it's an interesting point though, because the other girl seems just as smart. So I don't know why he always seems like stunned by her. But I guess
right!
the reality would be though, let's be honest, if a 25-year-old was in a class, they are going to sound substantially smarter than a bunch of 17-year-olds. It would probably be a little jarring. You know what I mean? And like she's supposed to be an editor at the Chicago Sun-Times. So it's like she would be substantially more well-spoken and educated than those kids would. Like she's been to college. But it is so immediate that he has like goo goo eyes for her, that it
Mhm.
seems pretty creepy now looking back at it, which I'm sure when I watched it when I was 13, I was, oh, this is so cool. Didn't think anything of it. Um,
Yeah, you
so
were
yeah,
13, you were, like, prime this movie
prime.
I feel like was made for you and your
Yeah.
age group.
Her brother eventually decides that he also should enroll in this high school for no
Yeah,
fucking reason because she's getting paid to do this by the newspaper as an undercover reporter. Her brother, who is just trying to relive his glory days because he was a baseball player and he's now a loser, well, in his eyes, right? Because he's not really
in
doing
his
anything,
eyes,
didn't go
he's
to college.
23.
He's
It's fine that
23.
you're working at the Tiki Post.
Like, you still have options. It's very strange. But
Jesus
Carl
Christ.
made a really good point. He was like, these two siblings, so the main, Drew Barrymore and David Arquette, they are like the most iconic kind of people that end up grooming other people, which is you
Hmm,
peaked in high school and this was your heyday and you want to relive it forever, or you were a giant nerd in high school and you're trying to make up for that experience, which is definitely the category our abuser would fall into. And I
mhm.
thought it was a really good point, and he, like, made it unprompted, and I was really proud of him, and he was like, "This is, like these are the iconic kind of people that do this shit, though, right?" Is, like, it's coming from some form of insecurity about
Yeah,
yourself.
that's what I'm saying. You change the lighting and the music and the intonation of this movie, and it is a completely different movie. It
Yeah.
is. They're
Yeah.
they're
It's
both
really creepy.
yeah, and Rob, before he enrolls in school and decides to try to be a minor league baseball star, Josie shows because the whole thing is that Josie has to find the story. Gary
Mhm.
Marshall's character, who's like the man in charge, is like, go find out what the youths are doing, find the story. You're gonna go undercover. And so she has to find the story. And so she comes up with like, oh, there's the secret spot where all the kids go and drink underage and be kids. And John C. Riley, Gus is his name in the movie, is like, no, no, this is garbage. Why are you giving me this nonsense? So she brings a copy of the paper in, and Rob looks at it and he's like, oh, we got some underage hotties on our hands.
Yeah.
And she's just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to just ignore. And I get it. Like, similar with Miller's Girl, especially now, you watch this movie and you have to suspend the belief in
Yeah.
some way. So I understand a lot of it is, for us, for me, I want to say this would never happen, but it's a movie. And so, yeah, he enrolls.
But also, there's a lot of those comments being made. So yeah, he says,
Yeah.
underage hotties, but then one of her coworkers says they didn't look like that or they didn't look that good when I was in high school. Like one of her grown ass like coworkers says that. Like there is so much creepy like split second commenting going on throughout this movie of like joking about sexualizing teenagers that just really didn't age well. And again, it's been 26 years, so obviously it's to be expected.
Stop it. This movie came out 26 ago.
Do the math. Yeah, this movie could rent a car. Yeah. This movie is
It's wild.
older than some of my coworkers said.
Jesus.
It's hard to put your mind around sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot
The
of just
cell
kinda
phones in this
creepy.
movie.
God. I will say I laughed to myself though because a lot of the, like, popular hot girls were wearing, like, bras as shirts, and I was like, "That's hilarious," because I went off about that in Miller's Girl, and then they were doing
Mhm.
it in 1999. I was like, "Well,
And Molly
that's funny."
Shannon is dressed like the wife in Miller's Girl, where she's got
Oh my
her
god, I
bras
know her
popping out
outfits
and
are pretty scandalous, but she's also supposed to be like the office slut or something, so it makes sense. Yeah, and then yeah, so then her brother enrolls in the school because he wants to.
he wants to so the way I understood it
Oh,
is
that's right.
he's like, "They have a really good baseball team, and if I can get scouted at the championships, maybe I can go to the minor league." So for him, it is more
And
like
pretend about who I am and my age for the rest of my
yes,
life?
that's
Like, that
yes,
doesn't make any
exactly. Yeah, it makes
sense.
no sense. It also makes no sense that like, how easy is it to just enroll anybody in school? Like, not even the security
Apparently,
guard knew
just
who she was. It doesn't
no,
seem like they told anyone that she's actually an adult in this
no,
situation,
because
and
then she
and
wouldn't be
then
undercover, dude.
well, whatever. There's just a lot of things that I look at now and I'm like, how would any 13-year-old now be watching this movie and be able to believe any of it?
I also thought so then, like, there's a point where, like, all the kids end up going to, like, a nightclub or something to see a band, and then the
I love
teacher's
that scene.
there
Yeah.
at the nightclub, which I also was like, I mean, sure, that can happen, right? Where, like, everybody's out at the same place, but obviously painted by our personal experience of, like, yeah, that's what, our abuser did was, like, position himself to be places where students also were outside of school so that you could, like, connect them a different way. But I also loved how it was like, "This is my girlfriend. She thinks it's too loud in here. She's a successful
I
businesswoman.
wrote that
What
down
a
too.
bitch."
Yeah, I wrote that down too, that they make her seem like such a stick in the mud, or like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
so loud, and, I know you like this kind of thing, but I hope you get it out of your system before you come to New York."
But then Rob, her brother, he starts going to the school, and then
Mhm.
he starts dating Tracy, who is 16 and he is
Yeah,
23, and lying to her
yeah.
and saying that he is a senior in high school, which is so creepy and
Mhm.
disturbing. And then also Josie, Drew Barrymore's character, seems to have a crush on Guy, who is the popular boy child in her class. So it's like they're both creeping on students while the teacher is creeping on her who he thinks is a student. So it's a real, triangle of bad
Yeah.
choices by everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so after Rob is a student and tells and helps Josie be cool, they're at a party and Tracy, the 16-year-old, is talking to Josie about oh no. Tracy tells Josie at the party, "I'm going to be Rob's prom date." And Josie kind of pulls Rob to the side and is starting to try to reason with him and say, "She's 16." And he says, "Yeah, and a gymnast." And then she starts listing off like all the reasons why it's illegal. And then here comes Guy and is like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And then she's same thing, like googly eyes. And she like follows him to her bedroom, which he doesn't know is
Yeah.
her bedroom. But yeah, and then
Well,
Rob, I think, as she's walking away, says something like, "I'll see you in the cell block," or whatever. And then it's just like they're both doing this thing. They're
yeah.
deceiving
He
teenagers.
says he says, "See you on the cell block, Mrs. Robinson," which is also
Oh,
a callback to The Graduate, where he's
yeah.
sleeping with a much older woman. Yeah, and it's just like so casually thrown in there, like, yeah, where she's trying to say, "You're being a creep, you're being a pervert, this is inappropriate." And then yeah, the popular boy walks up and she's like, "Tee hee, like I'm gonna go follow him up to my childhood bedroom with a boy who is 17." Yeah, I definitely wrote that part down of like, wait, what the fuck? Like, like you have enough. I guess the idea is too that like her character had such a traumatic high school experience and she has never been kissed. That's the name of the movie. So she's a virgin. So she's also supposed to be very like innocent and naive. And I think that's also supposed to justify some of the behavior. Like I wondered about that as I was watching it's like, is that what's supposed to make it okay that she's kind of creeping on this boy? Or that she kind of is flattered that Guy wants to date her is because, well, she's never even had sex. She's never been kissed before. Like she's a virgin. She's innocent. She's
Do
not
we
an
know
adult.
that she's a virgin? I didn't
Well, she
I never
literally said she's never even kissed somebody before, so if she hasn't kissed somebody, you gotta assume she's never had sex with anybody.
but she says, "I've kissed guys." She's like, "I've kissed guys. I've kissed guys. I just never felt that thing." So I don't think it's that
I guess I
I've
took
never
it
felt like she's not like she's a virgin.
Oh, I took it very much as, like, her being like, "Yeah, I haven't not kissed a guy," like, that she was kinda trying to cover for herself. Do you know what I mean? Because she says, like, "My first real kiss." I don't know. They never show her interacting with any man except for the prom date that fucking egged her, which that part is very sad.
It
That
is. That
part
part
is
breaks my heart.
like it that's what's hard is like she is a likable character to a certain extent, and she is like a goofball and a nerd, and like it's like so close to being an enjoyable experience watching this, and then there's just this like really awful undercurrent happening of like, yeah, jailbait jokes and creeping on teenagers. Another scene that really stood out to me was the carnival scene when the teacher
Yeah.
swoops in to sit with her on the Ferris wheel and then
Mhm.
immediately starts talking about his relationship with his terrible girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says something like, "Oh, well, when you grow up, there'll be guys lined up around the street trying to date you." And she says, "Oh, you just have to say that because you're my teacher." And he's like, "No, I shouldn't say that because I'm your teacher." And I was like, this movie does such a strange job of trying to tiptoe over the line and then backing away from it and being like, "No, no, no, no,
Mhm.
we're doing a better job because we know we're crossing a line and we're acknowledging it, so it's okay." So
So as I was going back and watching the movie, I realized that like he really is the creep and like he is the problem, the teacher, Sam, because he starts everything. He
Mhm.
is the first one and the first time they meet. The end of that scene is him asking, "Are you sure you're 17?" And then the Ferris wheel. He's the one that says, like, after he's talking about his girlfriend and moving to New York, he's like, "Ah, I shouldn't be talking to you about this. All I can say is when you're my age." So it's not like she
Mhm.
is trying to get any of this out of him. Like he's the one
No,
saying these things.
honest to God,
And
if
yeah.
you really take a step back, she doesn't seem to be even mildly interested in him until very far into the movie. Like 99% of her interactions with him, she just walks away like doesn't really pay any attention to him. And same when they have that little montage somewhere in the middle of it as they're kind of getting ready for prom and it shows them like painting a
Oh,
backdrop.
yeah.
Or and now
Yeah.
I think about it, I'm like that backdrop wasn't even at prom, so I don't know what the fuck that was for, school play, something. And he's, like, brushing paint on her like, they're flirting, like, they're, like,
Yeah.
hitting each other with paint and, like, kinda, like, giggling, and yeah, I was very that one was a little, like, too close for home for me because, yeah, I used to paint the sets for my school plays, and the teacher definitely, like, helped, air quotes, me paint one of the last sets that I ever painted in high school, and then, like, yeah, made one of his first physical moves on me in the, like, janitor's closet when I was washing the brushes afterwards, which is very creepy when you say it out loud now, like alone in a janitor's
Mhm.
closet at like 9:30 at night with my teacher. Yeah, so some of that stuff was very just like ishy because it all looked a little too familiar, you know?
So also about that Ferris wheel scene, I remember that being a key scene in the trailer. Of her
Mm.
saying, "You have to say that because 'cause you're my teacher," and him saying, "Actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm your teacher." Like,
Ew.
I had that in my brain, seeing that in the trailer
Huh.
over and over again. After the Ferris wheel, they do start becoming more flirty, and then
Mhm.
Gus, John C. Reilly, he's the one that's like, "This is your story. We can tell that this
Mm.
guy has a crush on you, and he's a teacher, and you're a student, and, like, we're gonna blow the lid off this thing." And so someone sees, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
hey, there's something going on here that isn't really right," but then is like, I don't know. I had very conflicting feelings watching this scene because part of me was thinking back to when we were sending the letters and like we wanted this kind of reaction, right? We
Yeah.
wanted a reporter to be like, "Oh yeah, the scandal. We're going to go in and blow the lid and write all about it." But then like watching it, and of course it's acting, but I don't know, it just felt really exploitive. How did you feel, Sarah?
Well, it also felt a little trappy, like like if you're sending an adult in there pretending to be a child who's, this wasn't her goal going in, but if this had been like the pivot is that then your goal is to go in and seduce him. I think it's super problematic because then because I think a lot of people think that about abuse survivors, right? Is that they think that like you and I seduced our teacher, right? And that's even like was partially his defense, when he was trying to defend himself during, I don't know, one part of the investigation. I just remember him saying like,
Mhm.
I was powerless against them or something. And it's like, if that's true, if you are powerless against the wiles of a 16, 17-year-old girl, motherfucker, that's some sad shit. So I guess it bothered me on the way of just it kind of made it seem like here's this nice, decent guy who's catching feelings, and now we're gonna like trap him into being a pervert and ruin his life. Which I think that's the messaging that really stops a lot of people from coming forward. It stops a lot of people from even when they see it happening to somebody else, because like, well, what am I wrong? I don't want to ruin this person's career. I don't know. I thought I also felt a little weird about that part of the movie of just like it had strange implications. Because yeah, John C. Riley's line was, how close is too close, Because at that point,
Yeah.
nothing had happened between them, physical, but it was definitely
Right.
like there was a vibe happening. And then it almost just immediately goes into prom, right? It's like they have that conversation of
Mhm.
like, this is our story. And then it just pivots straight into prom. And then I feel like the movie is on LSD from that point on. Do you have anything else to talk about before we get to prom?
Yeah. This quote of "How close is too close"
Mhm.
is also reminiscent of Miller's Girl and Election. This talk of writing
Mm.
the line and finding that line, and I think this movie was trying to really ride that line because they do
Yeah.
make these characters likable. And, like, Rob, for example, he's likable. He doesn't cross the line. At prom, he tells Tracy when she's like, "I wanna lose my virginity to you," he kind of puts the brakes on that. So he's not that bad, like,
But
he
it's
might
like
be making out and flirting and whatever, so he's not that bad. He's
that's
still
what
a
I said to
likable
Carl.
character.
I was like, they had to have made out though, right? Like they were at a party together, they went to prom together. They for
She's
sure
all
fooled
over
around.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And he went to prom with no pants on because also it was a costume prom where you dress up as famous couples. And they went as risky business, which is Tom Cruise in his underwear and a young woman who is a sex worker. So also that means Tracy was dressed up as a sex worker, which nowadays I think has a very different connotation. But in 1999, you know what I mean, is also just kind of a weird, and obviously it's his idea because he's the one that's older. Like she wouldn't have thought
Mhm.
of risky business. So here's
Right.
a 23-year-old man that his costume idea was, I'm going to go in my underwear and a dress shirt and you're going to go as a hooker. 16-year-old
Mhm.
girl. Like that's also super fucked up and
Yeah.
creepy when you take a step back from it. But yeah, but they try to present him very much as, but he's a good guy because he didn't have sex with her. What a
Right.
champ.
I think they do that too with Sam, with the teacher of like, oh,
Hmm.
he's just so conflicted and she wasn't really a student, so he's not that bad. And I don't
Yeah.
know. It just I felt like the movie was trying to really and did it well. I mean, this it's an endearing movie for a reason. Of course, looking back at it now with the perspective that I have, it's a very different experience watching it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I just wanted to go back to the idea of writing that line and how we've seen that come up in these movies. And I think the movie itself, Never Been Kissed, is a really fascinating depiction of writing the line.
It's a good point. But even when they get to prom, Rob, her brother, gets, wins to be on the prom court or whatever. And he jumps up on the stage and he kisses the female teacher.
I wrote this
And sh
down too.
and she looks all like flustered and is like fanning herself like, and I'm like,
Everyone's
"What
like,
the fuck?" Like
Sam, the
so
teacher. I rewinded that just to see his reaction, and the teacher, the other adult there, is just like,
yeah, they don't care. And
they don't
then,
care.
twist, of course, Josie gets named prom queen. And the way the teacher is staring at her when he like puts the crown on her and like hands her the flowers and she's having her dance with Guy, who's the prom king, who is the boy that she was kind of crushing on as well. So creepy. Like it's like, yeah, so she's dancing with a child who's clearly catching feelings for her, which is fucking creepy. And then the teacher who thinks she is a teenager is watching her catching feelings for her, which is
Mhm.
creepy. And still at that point, Joycey doesn't really seem that engaged with the teacher. Like it's so strange. It's like it really just feels like at the very end that she's the like, I'm in love with him. It's like the whole movie, she's not really paying that much attention to him.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
strange.
Right.
Um,
And so before that scene where she's dancing with Guy, Sam, I like that we're just calling him the teacher now too.
I know, sorry, it's
The
confusing.
teacher no, 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 that's okay. I think it's a good habit to have so we don't slip up. Sam tells again, he is the one initiating all of this. He
Mhm.
goes up to Josie, says, "You make a beautiful queen," and then
Ugh.
asks her to dance.
Which is
He
so
asks
crazy,
her to
dude.
dance.
Listen, listen. Even when I went to my senior prom, I was actively being sexually abused by my English teacher. He did not ask me to dance at that prom. He for sure was a chaperone at that prom, but that's a bold ass move. Do you know what I mean? Like to slow dance with a student at a dance is so fucking inappropriate. And I remember thinking that. I'm like, dude, we didn't even do that. And we actually, there actually was something happening. And like that didn't even happen. So it felt very, yeah, movie bullshit of like, oh, do you want to slow dance? Like, oh, sure. And like no one's paying attention to them. Like if that happened
Mhm.
in a real high school, everyone would be like, oh my God. Like how embarrassing. Or ooh, are they crushing on each other? Like, it would be a big scandalous thing to see a teacher slow
Yeah.
dancing with a student.
Yeah,
And then when they're slow
exactly.
dancing and then when they're slow dancing, she says something like, "I have something to tell you." And it's to assume that she's gonna tell him, "I'm a reporter. I've been undercover, blah, 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 blah." And then he's like, "I have something to tell you too." Which also very strongly implies that he's gonna say, I got the hots for you,
Yeah.
17-year-old student. But then they
Mhm.
get interrupted because she stops a bullying attack for another student. But it's such a romantic moment. And it's so clearly that there's chemistry and that he wants to tell her something that he probably shouldn't tell her. And also lets her know that him and his girlfriend broke up.
Yeah, that's right, he
He's
does.
like, "Oh, by the way, I'm single. Also, I have something to tell you." It's like, what was he gonna do? Just tell this girl at prom, "I'm in love with you"?
Yeah.
Like, the fuck? Like, what was she supposed to do with that information?
So you had mentioned that it didn't really seem like she was into him, and I agree. I think I was trying to think throughout the movie, like what is really motivating her? Like she
Mhm.
doesn't really also like at first she doesn't even really seem to care about the story. Like she's not really trying to find a good story. So it's not like
No.
she's trying to be this like awesome undercover journalist. It really felt like her whole goal was just to be cool. I think she liked the attention and the flattery, but she wasn't really trying to get with Guy either, and she wasn't really trying to get with Sam, with the teacher, so all she was trying to do was have a second chance at high school and
Mhm.
be cool, and that is if you remove the fact that this is Never Been Kissed starring Drew Barrymore, like, it's really fucked up, and even
Yeah.
the fact that, like, she let herself be in the running for prom, whatever, she
Mhm.
took that spot from an actual high school student. Rob
Yeah.
took that spot from an actual high school student. That is fucked up. Like, it's just she's really selfish. I think her character is really selfish, and it's hard to see her that way because she is just so, like, cute and nice and
Mhm.
well-intentioned and tragic, like that scene of her all the scenes of her being in high school are just so sad. So, yeah, I don't know, I just as I was watching this movie again with a different lens and really looking at her character, she's not the most well-adjusted 25-year-old.
No, and I think it's a good reminder that that can be a common mistake of victimhood, though, right? Is that you get so blinded by what happened to you that you can be a real piece of shit to the people around you or be really unaware of the situations happening around you because you're so hyper fixated on what happened to you. Because that is all she was thinking about is I got bullied, I this, I that, I that. She wasn't thinking about like what you said, like I'm taking this spot from this kid. I'm taking a spot in the mathletes or whatever the fuck they were from a kid that could be in this. It was 100% just her trying to relive her high school and get a second chance and be cool and be liked, but never stopping to think, do I even like these kids? Like, why do I want the approval of a bunch of vapid, mean 17-year-old girls who are horrible? And they never do anything to make the popular kids ever look nice. Like they never show another side of any of those kids to be like,
Mhm.
oh, they're real human beings. Like they are just like flat, iconic, asshole, preppy, popular, hot kids.
Yeah.
She stops the other girl from being bullied at prom, which is like her big kind of triumphant moment, right? I think of redemption, where she stops somebody else from being bullied and she protects this kid that was very much like she was in high school. And then she yells at all of them and throws the crown, the prom queen crown on the ground and is like, who cares about your stupid games? And it's like, Well, they do because 'cause they're teenagers. Like, of course
And
you can
you
look down
did.
on it. Yeah, 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 5 minutes
You
ago, you
fucking
cared.
did.
You were, like, crying. And she just immediately is like, "I'm 25 years old. I am a reporter, and, nothing's changed." She has this, like, righteous moment. But, oh my god, the teacher behind her, Sam, when she goes off about how she's 25, the look on his face of just, like, like, disappointment, and he just runs out of the gymnasium like, "Oh my god." Just cracked me up because it's like, "Oh, no. Your little child bride isn't a child. What a devastating turn of events for you." And then she ends up chasing him out of the prom outside.
Yeah, and so I forgot that he overhears her talking to the van guy about not getting anything on Sam because I think
Mhm.
I forgot his name, but that character goes up, like, catches her running after Sam, goes, "Did you get anything on Coulson?" And she goes, "No." And then Sam comes out of the shadows and he's like, "You used me. You set me up for a story." And so at first, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was thinking, okay, maybe it was just overwhelming for him. And he was like, I'm going to remove myself from the situation
Mhm.
and went outside to take a breather and think about what this means. In his mind, he was thinking, oh, well, now I can't actually be with her. And, like, I was just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that he was maybe just doing some self reflection. But then after he comes out of the shadows and says, "You set me up for a story," immediately I wrote down, "Bitch, you did," because he initiated everything.
Yeah.
He initiated everything. Oh, yeah. They
Well,
really
and then
try to
he
make him likable, but
Yeah. Well, and in that same conversation, he also says, "So now I'm allowed to be attracted to you?" Like, yelling at her, like, because she's like, "No, it's fine. Like, I'm 25." And he's like, "Oh, so now it's okay that I'm attracted to you?" And it's like, dude, it is problematic that you were attracted to her 10 minutes
yeah.
ago because you thought she was 17. And then he says, "I can't look at you the same way." And I'm like,
Uh,
"Motherfucker, that's not a her problem. That is a you problem, good sir." Like, what do you mean you can't look at her the same way? Because you no longer think that she is a teenager? But I
yeah,
think they're trying to
yeah.
say it like, because you lied to me. And it's like, nah, that's not how it
That
goes.
scene, yeah, I didn't like it because I felt really sad for Josie that she felt like she was the one that did something wrong and
Yeah.
having to be like, well, we could just get to know each other. Like she's biking him to like give her a second chance. And it made me really sad for her as survivor of abuse to see her be apologetic for nothing. Like she didn't do anything wrong. She did some things that were wrong, but to him, she did not.
It's true. He was the last person she should have ever had to apologize to, and he was the only person she apologized to. Because everyone else in the school was immediately like, "Yay, it's fine." Like there was nobody else in the school seemed to have a problem with Josie lying. The timing of all this is very confusing because Rob yells at her brother, and says,
Yeah.
"How dare you blow our cover?" Because she also says Rob is my 23-year-old brother, so she blows his cover. "How dare you blow my cover because the big baseball championship is in 2 days," right?
Yeah, everyone's mad at her for no
But
reason.
somehow within 2 days, Diana, she writes her entire article. It gets published. It's everyone in Chicago has read it, and the article has never been kissed, and it's her like explaining pretty much the whole movie of like, this is my high school experience. It was terrible. I was supposed to do this undercover story, and I ended up falling in love with the teacher, and I hurt him. But if he can forgive me, then he'll meet me at the big baseball tournament game, and I'll be standing on the pitcher's mound, and he'll kiss me for my very first real kiss. And then the whole community comes out, including all of the kids from the high school. None of them are mad. They're all cheering for her. All of them. Like
Yeah,
the teachers are there, her
yeah.
coworkers are there, like
The
everyone is so
popular
happy.
girls.
The popular girls, all the press is there because it's such a good story. I'm like, this all happened in 2 days. What? Like that
Suspend
doesn't
belief.
I know. I should These aren't the things I should get worried about. But I just thought it was very funny because yeah, all the kid nobody was mad at her besides
Yeah.
the one person who had no right to be mad at her, which is Sam.
So I did make a note because when she calls out Rob and says, "I only became cool because my brother Rob, whatever, whatever." Jessica Alba's character she's the only one that's like, "Ew." Like, she skeezed out by it because yeah, and it's settling in that this rando adult
Yeah.
man has been hanging around me and my friends and complimenting me and all this stuff. But yeah, the fact I that's so funny, Sarah. I mean, not funny. It's actually kind of sad that we thought the same thing of how are all these kids just like okay with it? Like, why is
Yeah.
no one's checking? Everyone's just like, hey, welcome back, lady. They don't feel betrayed, whatever. So I had
Yeah.
the same thought of what everyone, the community is just behind this.
Mhm.
And fuck, yeah, the fact that it happened over 2 days, that she wrote yes, it's
It's
makes no
that's not
sense.
how newspapers work.
Nope.
And so, yeah, and then plot, spoiler alert, if you're 26 years behind and you haven't seen this movie, he doesn't show up and you're devastated for Josie and she like stands there in front of this whole baseball stadium full of people and everyone's like, "Poor Josie." And then here comes the teacher, Sam, running down the stands to run down to the pitcher's mound and give her a kiss, and this big romantic kiss. But it's like, and that's the Kool-Aid, man, that we all grew up drinking, is it's like those big sweeping romantic
Yeah.
gestures and this forbidden love that they couldn't be together, but now they can, and nobody's mad and nobody's upset, and we're just gonna ignore all the actual problematic aspects of this. I think goes back to what we've kind of talked about of like the idea of pop culture also grooming people, right? Of like, yeah, I saw this when I was 13 years old. And the
Mhm.
messaging very much in there is that here's this really likable, really relatable character who is supposed to be like an average person just like you, right? She's not fucking Jessica Alba hot. Like she's because that you know what I mean? Like there are
Not
people
in the
that look like
movie, but
no,
in real
but
life.
there are people that look like they came from a different planet. Do you know what I mean? Like there are people that are
100%.
just so
Yeah, yeah.
fucking attractive. You're like, there is not enough kale in this world that I could ever look like this person. And so Drew Barrymore, because I've said that to Carl, is like she's had such an interesting career of balancing being a beautiful leading lady, but being very relatable and feeling like the girl next door. Like she's had a very interesting, successful career at balancing those two things out. And I'd say this movie is a perfect example of that. Is like she's such a fuddy-duddy frump in the beginning, and by the end, she's gorgeous, and which also sucks because it's very much like now that she has the attention of a man or something, she's flourished or now that she's popular because
Now
she
that her hair
lied
is
to
blonde.
everybody. Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, you're popular because you fucking lied to everybody. Like nobody knows. It's so confusing. But yeah, I think it just goes back to the idea of just this stuff matters because that's what we grew up watching. And what is the messaging behind all this stuff? And then how did that impact our thought process or our processing of when we were being groomed?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's been presented to you as a romantic story in movies.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about in the bonus Kaka episode that one of the sessions I went to, they cited research that the media and what we see in the media, and that includes film and movies, is how we form our opinions, is how
Mhm.
society forms like their perception of social issues. And yes, we both watched this movie very young where there is all kinds of toxic messaging about your body and being thin and cool versus uncool. I mean, that is
Mhm.
I was trying to think of like what is the conflict of the movie and for Josie specifically. And there's that one scene when her and Aldis and I think Aldis's little sister are driving with their ice cream and they go to like the court or whatever and
Mhm.
Guy, as they're driving away, says to them something like, "Why don't you take your calculators and calculate how long it's gonna take you to get cool?" What the fuck does that even mean,
Terrible burn.
to
It's so
get
stupid.
cool?
Yeah,
That's the
well,
issue. That is the conflict of the movie.
yeah, groomer personalities, really of just, I peaked in high school or I didn't. And you either want to replay it because you can't learn how to function as an adult or you like can't transition into adulthood or your obsession with having not been cool is so large that you want to go back in time and like fix it or something. And you're right, like I feel like that is the only conflict either one of those characters have because they both have jobs, they both have cars. Rob still lives with their parents who also you never see and are like just never home, which is also strange. Because yeah, what if her parents found out like, wait, both of our adult children pretended to be high schoolers and snuck into this high school and were dating teenagers. What the fuck? And then also at the end of the movie, it shows Rob as the new assistant coach to the baseball team. I'm like, stop. So 2
I
days ago,
know.
this motherfucker was pantsless at a prom dating a 16-year-old, and now he has been employed by the school that he bamboozled to be an assistant coach to be around these high school kids all the time.
And we're cheering for him. The audience, the viewers who are watching are like, "Oh, yay, it ends well for him." It
Yeah.
doesn't matter that he was being a creepo with a 16-year-old, but he didn't actually penetrate her.
Yeah.
So that's
Also, she's
okay.
also she's 16, so she theoretically will come back to school the next year, and this guy's gonna be an employee of the school, and she's gonna be a student. And they for
It's so
sure at least sucked
problematic.
face. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And even when Drew Barrymore goes back to the school, right before the ending, she goes back to the
The locker
school to
room.
talk oh my god, to talk to the coach about
Mhm.
getting all this press to show up at the baseball game. And she just walks to the locker room full of teenage boys and it's like, "Hide whatever you don't want to be seen, boys." And it's like, "What the fuck?" Like literally, we're to believe now a day ago was prom and you were supposed to be one of their classmates, and now you're just an adult 25-year-old woman walking through a teenager's locker room and being sassy about it.
I also wrote, "We look at
Mm.
I'm having a conflicting feeling right now, Sarah, because the things that you and I picked out in this movie are the same, and that's not a coincidence."
It's almost as if you and I have experienced the same trauma and have the same issues with the world around us. I don't know. Could be. Could be.
Um,
I also think most adults who watch this movie would be disturbed by the same things. I would hope so. Cuz it's pretty crazy. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Also,
yeah.
where was Sam moving?
I guess he's gonna find another apartment and stick around because he can't go to New York anymore. He broke up with his girlfriend.
Why is
Maybe
he
he'll
finding
move
a
into
different apartment?
Josie's because
Where is he
he's
going?
I don't know.
Why was he moving and where was he moving and how did he pack up everything he owned in one day? I don't know.
I remember watching this movie as a kid and feeling like the scene where he finally does get there being kind of underwhelming, like,
Mm,
just her being on the mound and waiting for him, and then everyone's concerned that he didn't show up, and then all of a sudden, here he comes just running down the bleachers, just felt kind of anticlimactic to me. But anyway,
mm,
something else that I really that I noticed and thought a lot about was that, yeah, like you said, she wrote the article, it edited, and it was published, and everyone was reading the Chicago Sun-Times. All those the scene where everyone in is like holding a newspaper and like reading the story felt
mhm.
surreal because one, that doesn't happen anymore. People are all looking at their phones and maybe
Yeah.
reading stories on their phones. But also back then, it was a time where social media was still really new. If there was anything, I don't even know if there was like a Zanga or anything out there. But back when there wasn't just news and content and all this stuff readily available, there were only so many stories out there that would get
Mhm.
your attention. So I don't know, just something else I wanted to add about how different things were 26 years ago.
I have
So
issues with it.
once he finally does get there and runs down the bleachers and gives her the kiss, he says something like, and this is how the movie ends. He says, "Sorry, I'm late. It took me forever to get here." And she responds, "I know what you mean." So I
Mhm.
really think this whole movie is about being a late bloomer
Yep.
and finding happiness in your mid 20s. I don't know. But yeah.
Which, again, this could have been a very sweet
Yeah.
movie. And it could have
Yes.
been she's going undercover as a teacher, and they have a no teacher dating policy at the school. And you could have done the exact same storyline, but it wouldn't have been the inappropriateness would have been inner office relationships, right? And you wouldn't have had the age dynamic or an illegal aspect to it. I just feel like it was so close to being okay. And they just said, fuck it. Like, let's just make it this scandalous, relationship. Everything about Rob was problematic though. There was absolutely nothing about Rob's character that wasn't an issue, I would say. Would you suggest this film to anybody for any reason?
Oh, Sarah. That the scene in the cumbia club is just such a classic scene. I do that dance move all the time. Slapping my butt, slapping the bass.
She eats a magic
It's
brownie and gets really high
yeah,
and makes a fool out of herself, but then she has
which
fun.
Yeah, which
And
when I was
everybody
a ki
comes around to it.
yes, this is another example of when I was a kid, I thought she was eating poop, and that's why everyone was all like, "Oh, no, it's a thing, she's gonna eat poop." I didn't understand that it was a brownie with
Drugs.
THC in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I don't know, it's hard. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, I guess I wouldn't recommend it to anyone under 25. I don't know, I just
Yeah.
it's cute in some ways, but again, now I just can't stop thinking about, all right, if there was just, like, some subtle differences about the production
Mhm.
of this movie, this would just be a fucked up thriller.
It's true, like
So,
those
I don't
trailers
know.
where they, like, change the music and put a filter over it, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they make, like, The Shining look like a lighthearted family romp or yeah, I love those. Those are super funny.
What do you think, Sarah? What's your answer to this? I'm just
I
gonna
don't know.
not
It
answer it by
feels
asking you to answer it.
oh, well, that works out fine. It feels really dated. I mean, it feels like a movie that if you are not in the right age demographic, you would have no reason to watch this movie because it's not a particularly good movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just cheesy and cheap, and
It's so quotable, though.
it is very quotable.
I say "yikes spikes" all the time, but my mind does not let me say it on this podcast because I think about that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, even just her getting egged to the prom scene. Like, there's just some of those things that are just, they're so iconic to Drew Barrymore. And because that is, kind of her shtick now as an adult is that she is very just like, I'm kind of a dork. You know what I mean? And like,
Mhm.
I'm kind of
Relatable.
weird but I'm relatable and people like me, but I'm also kind of too much. But that's also what you like about me. Like, that's kind of just her. It feels very Drew Barrymore, I guess. Like her character's movie just feels very authentic to her vibe. So I don't know. I guess I probably wouldn't suggest it to anybody unless I was like, do you want to watch something that did not age well? Do you want to watch something that you could just make a 3-page laundry list of like yikes moments? Go ahead and check it out.
Yikes spikes.
Yikes
I
spikes.
love this was one of the first movies I saw with Octavia Spencer in it, and her character,
Mm.
even though she's not in it for very long, was super memorable to me as a kid. The line where she says, "Damn, girl, you are a writer." I think about that scene all the time. Like, it's
Isn't that
hard
her
because
only line in the whole movie?
no, she says a few other things,
Hmm.
but it's not a lot. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe I would recommend it to an older person, what you would call, Sarah, a middle-aged
Yeah,
person
my
who
people. An elder millennial. Millennials, yeah, I don't think I would go below millennial. I
yeah,
would be fascinated
probably
though to
not.
hear how a Gen Zer would react to this movie. I really would be because I think they would be
Mm,
like, "The fuck? Like, what am I looking at right now?" But I could be wrong.
yeah.
I would be interested.
If there are any Gen Zers out there, let us know what your thoughts are. Anyone out there, just let us know what your thoughts are on Never
Yeah,
Been Kissed.
how do you feel about Never Been Kissed? I think this might be the most likely to have been seen film we have covered so far on Groom Scroll. Because
Yeah,
everything else,
I
it's
think
like
you're
I don't
right.
know, but I think this one probably most of our listeners have seen or have some awareness of. So yeah, let us know what you think about Never Been Kissed. Did we miss anything? Do you think we're misinterpreting this masterpiece of romance cinema? Let us know. I doubt it, but let us know. If you have any suggestions for movies we should watch on Groom Scroll, we're all ears for that as well.
Yeah, and check us out online, bloomingafterpod.com, and also on Instagram, also blooming after pod. And an email is also something we have here. It's bloomingaftergrooming@gmail.com. Okay, well, thank you for listening to another Groom Scroll.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.
There you
The
go. Very
end.
nice.
What?
Casual recording. Get it out of my body.